Hello, friends. Chris Corsi here, president of Thrive Today, and I want to welcome you to the Relational Skills in Real Life podcast. Friends, today's focus is on the skill we call interactive quiet. We call this skill 15. And many of us could probably relate to this skill where you're with someone who is in really high energy reaction. Maybe they're mad, or maybe they're afraid, or whatever it is. They're feeling something big, often high energy, and we're with them. And so skill 15 will show up when we can stay connected with them while we share the high energy emotions with them, but we can quiet. So I liken this to if you've ever been stuck in traffic and traffic's moving kind of slow. You tap the brakes, you push the accelerator, you tap the brakes, you stop, you press the accelerator a little bit, then you stop. That's kind of what we're doing here when we're using interactive quieting. And so, what interactive quieting does is it keeps us connected during high energy reactions. What this does is create safety in our relationships because you're reading someone's cues. You're sharing some of that upset with them, but you're able to pull back on the reins and quiet. You're able to lower the energy level so they don't go over the top. People who don't have skill 15, when they get angry, then they just go over the top. They react, they say the hurtful thing, or they get aggressive or even violent. So, what we're doing here is we're monitoring self and others during high energy levels, and this creates some safety and builds trust in our relationships. And you know what? People who have this skill, you feel it when you're with them, and maybe you're processing some hard stuff or you're feeling some really big feelings. They're able to stay with you. You feel like they're attuning, you feel like they're staying present and relational, but yet they have the ability to quiet and take that breath. And so when we're with them, what it does is it's lowering the energy levels. And we've talked a little bit before about skill 9 before. Skill 9 is just knowing when to stop. So skill 9 is just you slam on the brakes, you put the car in park, and you're done. No more driving. Skill 15, you're continuing to use the accelerator and the brake to keep moving forward, but you're not going too fast and you know how to pull it back. And what this does is this says, I know how to care for me and join you in these big feelings. And friends, today's example is a really helpful example. About a time there, I had a chance to babysit a family member. I was much younger and still in my relational skill journey, and a family member had reached out and said, "Hey, Chris, my husband and I we're going to go away on a cruise, and I would like you to be able to stay with my kids while we're gone." And I thought, you know what? I was in the middle of writing a book. I was like, this is a piece of cake. I can help the kids, get them to school, work during the day, and then spend time with them in their evenings. Like, how hard can that be, right? Well, I was a little bit naive back then. This was before I had children, but I saw it as a great opportunity to really spend some time with family members that I don't get to see very often. So I agreed. And the first morning when they left, they woke up at like 3 in the morning to leave. And they kissed the daughter and the son goodbye. And then they left. Well, the kids were young enough that when mom and dad's leaving, that's a big deal. So when mom and dad left, they were up for the day. Like, there was no going back to sleep. So they were very tired that day. And in the evening, when they got home from school, we were interacting. And you know what? The younger brother and the older sister were not getting along. In fact, they were fighting and yelling, and it was clear they were exhausted. So I knew they were wiped, and I really knew they needed to get to bed early that night. So I had a plan, and my plan was to help big sister calm down and be able to get to bed. But she got really upset about this particular interaction with her little brother, and she fell on the floor, and she started into a glorious temper tantrum where she was kicking her legs, and she was slamming her fists back, and she was screaming. And I noticed, like, wow, this is a big reaction, and I was, my identity center in my brain was like, what do I do when this kind of stuff happens? Because I didn't have a lot of experience with kids yet at that point. So I'm like, what do I do? Right? I wasn't sure. So I knew it was time to get ready for bed. So what I had done is I picked her up, and she's throwing the temper tantrum and screaming and kicking. And I put her on her bed, and I sat next to her, and she's just screaming and wailing. And she was not having this. So the only thing I knew to do was something that my first grade teacher had done when the class was too rowdy and too loud. What she would do is she would start singing a song, but she would start out very loud and she would sing, "Quiet voices do I hear, quiet voices do I hear." And I always noticed with amazement that this song quieted the classroom. Like I just thought this must be some kind of magic or something. Like I don't know how this is working, but it worked and it always calmed the classroom. So I thought, you know what? It worked for my teacher. Maybe it'll work for me. So because the big sister was throwing a big temper tantrum, she was very loud. So what I started to do is I started to sing that song, and I'm not a good singer, but I started singing that song very loud and kind of matching her energy level. And then what I would do is then I would lower my voice a little bit at a time. I would tap those breaks. So I would sing the song over and over again, but I would lower my voice, lower my energy. And I noticed something interesting start to happen. Big sister started to quiet. She started to lower her energy to match my energy. So step by step, I'm lowering my voice, singing the song over and over again as I'm sitting right next to her. And within just a few minutes, I was whispering that song as she was whispering her temper tantrum, kind of falling to sleep in that moment. Barely, it's a little swing of the fist, a little kick of the leg. And she was whispering her temper tantrum, and then her eyes closed and she fell asleep. I was shocked. Wow, this worked. This is amazing. It worked. Now, at the time, what I didn't know is I was practicing skill 15. I was helping her to be able to, I was mirroring her, meeting her at the high energy level, but then I was lowering my energy level. In other words, my brain knew how to tap the brakes. And that's what she needed, someone to share her upset with her, meet her, and then match her energy levels, and then start to lower it until she fell asleep. It was glorious. It was amazing. I was shocked. So this is skill 15. So what we're doing is we're meeting people in their upsets. We're reflecting back some of what we're hearing in the intensity that's there, but then we start to lower our energy, tap the brakes. And so we're teaching people this is how we use our brakes under these conditions, right? High energy levels, we need to pause and quiet. The energy levels start to climb, we need to pause and quiet. So we're keeping and maintaining the interaction without losing the relationship. And friends, that's why this skill is so important, because this is a skill that helps children learn how to quiet strong impulses. These could be sexual impulses, or these could be violent, aggressive impulses. And people who lack skill 15, when they get upset, they just lose it. And there's a lot of relational casualties. Maybe they become aggressive or they say and do things that's really hurtful. In other words, they don't know how to use the brakes. How would driving to work go for you if you didn't use the brakes? It would not be pretty, would it? Well, that's kind of what happens in our relationships when people lack this skill. So there's a lot of aggression and violence, and in extreme cases sexual violence, when people that don't have this training to be able to learn those skills and help the human brain in order to tame those strong cravings and strong impulses. So learning the skill is very difficult because where your brain has opinions about the absence of this skill. So we do a lot of versions of this training at Thrive. And you know what? It can be a difficult skill to train because we have all of these unhelpful experiences that often can get triggered while we're trying to use this skill. And these are skills that especially young parents have to use a lot when they're sleep training their children. There's a whole lot of quieting upset and staying present to quiet upset and learn how to recover. And even parents, when their toddlers go into the terrible twos, as they call them, there's a whole lot of this skill being used to help our children be able to quiet. And what's interesting about this skill is primarily, Alan Shore says it's actually primarily trained by the male brain, by the father in the family. It's often the father that likes to throw the kid up in the air and likes to wrestle and I'm going to get you kinds of games and tickling. Like there's a lot of this high energy, and then we quiet. I remember Jen and I training our sons in this when they were younger, and I would do a lot of, I'm going to get you games, and I'm going to sneak up on them. I'm going to tickle them and wrestle, and then I'm going to pause and let them quiet. Then we tickle and wrestle, then we pause and we catch our breath. So that's kind of the sequence here that we're after. And a lot of survival types of ministries that go into the mountains and take teenagers in the mountains and do things. That's another way that these skills actually get trained. So very important skill. And there's been some interesting studies on the fathers, right? Since the fathers are the primary people who are training these skills, there's a psychologist by the name of Vern Bengston. And Vern did a 35-year study on children who have a close relationship to the father. And Dr. Bengston's research showed that children with a close relationship to the father and have a good bond with the father will often hold on to their father's religion. So he found that a close relationship with the father matters more than a close relationship with the mother. Now, again, close relationship with mom is a very big deal. Not going to minimize that. But in terms of children just practicing and following their parents' faith expression actually really is largely influenced, especially by the father and the relationship with the father. And Bengston found that fervent faith, he said, fervent faith cannot compensate for a distant dad. So no matter how strong my faith is as a father, if I'm distant with my child, then that's going to wash away and negatively influence the chances that they're going to want to emulate and follow my faith expression. So we can have a father who's a pillar of the church, he says, but if he doesn't provide warmth and affection and affirmation to his kid, the child is not going to want to follow his faith. So this is kind of a big deal, honestly. And especially when we think about this warmth and affection and affirmation from the father, right, from that male brain, he is Dr. Bengston's noticed that this close connection and a strong bond and joy and peace are essential. But I want to add, as we're looking at the relational skills of interactive quieting, that this is a skill that helps fathers with their children to be able to enter into what's happening in the child and be able to share what's going on, but help them learn, how do we quiet, how do we back off, how do we tap the brakes. So this is a skill that actually would go toward providing that warmth that children feel from their father. So if skill 15 is not there, then you are going to have a distance in that relationship, because fathers aren't just going to be able to enter in. They're not going to be able to be present while the child is having those big feelings. So healthy bonds and secure attachments use skill 15 to keep us connected when things go wrong. And friends, as a parent, I really made it a point of learning these skills and practicing these skills because I knew I would need them interacting and playing with my sons. And so a lot of these skills are learned through play. A lot of this is learned through those interactions of play and tickling and so forth. How do we get amped up? But how do we quiet? How do we get amped up? But how do we quiet while we stay relational? And that is the key, friends, that skill 15 keeps us connected while we have big feelings and we can quiet our feelings and lower our energy. And it's this little dance that happens with the accelerator and the brake, the accelerator and the brake. And that keeps us from crashing into other people. And that keeps us from destroying the relationships that matter to us. So friends, these are the important skills you have to learn in the context of people who know what they're doing and people who have these skills and are monitoring for the signs of overwhelm and the need for a breather. So we've inserted this skill in all of the training tracks of Thrive. It's a life-changing skill, but you do need the right conditions to effectively learn this skill. So if you want to learn more about Skill 15 Interactive Quieting, go to our website at thrivetoday.org and click on Skill 15 of the 19 skills, and you'll see the resources that we have on our website. And I just pray that this is the start of something good for you as you start learning to use the brakes in your relationships.